The Yankees had terrible starting pitcher depth in 2023. So, should they go out and get the best arm on the market?
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. With me, as always, is my producer, Steve Granato. Steve, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Stacey? What's up, everybody? Thanks so much for clicking on the show here today. As you guys already know, we're still 5 days a week here in the off season, Monday through Friday, every midnight, new episode dropping. And today, just like we did with Cody Bellinger, if you missed that, go check it out. But we did a Making the Case on Cody Bellinger, and today we're doing a Making the Case for Blake Snell. Should the Yankees go after him? We're going to give you the pros, we'll give you the cons, we'll give you some other things to consider, and then, of course, come to a final verdict. Stacey will give theirs, I will give mine. Stace, we wanted to start today, just like we started with Cody Bellinger. This is, again, going to be something we do throughout the offseason, taking a look at some big free agents. Snell is clearly the biggest free agent pitcher on the domestic market.
Yes.
market overall too. Just overall, he's the prized possession here this offseason. There always seems to be one, right? Always seems to be at least one. And this year it's Blake Snell, and for good reason. He, as of this recording, has not, but in a day is going to win the Cy Young in the National League. It is pretty much set in stone. It is going to be his second Cy Young award. He won it in 2018. He was an All-Star in 2018, which is weirdly enough the only year he has been an All-Star. And he's coming off of his best season since that 2018 year. He's a 4-pitch mix, starting pitcher, a 4-seamer, a curveball, a changeup, and a slider. And Stacey, we referenced this during the Cody Bellinger episode, but MLB Trade Rumors does a top 50 free agents every year where they predict the contract size they will sign. And they, as we noticed last time, are usually pretty darn close. So you can take this as a pretty good window of what he will likely get this offseason. They have Blake Snell at 7 years, $200 million. Stacey, before we get into everything, you got to start with that. We don't care about the money. We care about the years. 7 years for a 30-year-old Blake Snell. Where are you feeling on that?
The thing that makes me comfortable with Blake Snell is that he has so many pitches, and that I feel like when a guy gets older and he can throw more of his off-speed stuff and he won't kill his arm, I feel like he's one of those guys who will be able to adapt to maybe losing some velocity because he's pretty crafty. So I feel like that's okay because I feel like when a guy has a smaller repertoire, it's a little frightening, but he has so many pitches that work really well that I think 7 years could actually work for someone who's turning 31 soon.
Yeah, he'll be turning 31 in December, so this will be his age 31 season in 2024. Like we have done in the past, and again, we'll continue to do here on Making the Case, give you our pros, we give you our cons, and then we come to a final verdict at the end. Stacey, we always start with the pros because we're glass half full here on Locked On Yankees. So let's start with the pros. Clearly, Blake Snell had an incredible 2023 season. Why was it incredible? Let's break it down. He's obviously was formerly with the Tampa Bay Rays, was with the San Diego Padres, and is now a free agent. What made him so successful was his attack plan. They played to Blake Snell's strengths to the highest degree, to the nth degree. This is quite literally the game plan for Blake Snell. Throw your stuff. It's nasty. You're going to walk people. That's fine. We're going to get into the walk stuff later. But the reason why they have this attack plan is because that stuff is so nasty. He is one of the best pitchers in baseball when it comes to swing and miss. He generates swinging strikes on non-fastballs better than just about anybody. We mentioned the repertoire: 4-seamer, curveball, changeup, slider. That curveball, Stacey, quite literally was the best in baseball in 2023. He was the best pitcher in baseball on that curveball, generating swinging strikes. He was 96th percentile on the changeup, and he was 92nd percentile on the slider. And on that curveball, too, he was 92nd percentile on swing and miss outside of the zone. So that's chases. So not only is he getting guys to swing and miss at his off-speed stuff, he's getting guys to swing and miss at stuff outside of the zone, which is perfect. Right?
Yeah.
You're always going to take swinging strikes. And we talked about the walks thing again, we're going to get to later. But one thing that is so good about Blake Snell and has been part of his game for years is his ability to get out of jams. He has been one of the better pitchers in baseball as a starting pitcher at getting out of jams, at leaving runners on and leaving runners in scoring position, which is massive. And when you pair that with one of the best bullpens in baseball, that is a beautiful, I mean, beautiful relationship to have. So it was great in 2018 during that Cy Young year. It was incredible in 2023, but it is a trend throughout his career that he is a pitcher that will get into trouble, but absolutely will also get out of it.
I like that about him. Not when you're playing against him, but when you look at it that way, yeah, you want to see someone be able to get out of jams and have the manager trust them so much that they're like, it's fine if you have first and second with one out. You're going to get out of this. It's okay. And he usually does.
Yeah.
His fastball, curveball, and changeup tend to induce ground balls, and then his slider tends to induce fly balls. So cool, 3 out of the 4 pitches ground balls, and the Yankees have pretty good defense, so he doesn't have to worry about that. As you said, his breaking stuff is swing and miss heavy, which is also really great. We were watching clips. Go to pitcher list, people, and watch his pitches, because if you don't watch him often and you look at how his pitches look, they're really unbelievable. And I feel like some of us forgot about Blake Snell, because when someone goes out to the West Coast, no offense, Steve, but when someone goes out to the West Coast, especially the NL West, and we're the AL East, we don't pay attention as much. But we know him from when he was with the Tampa Bay Rays. So that's another plus. He has AL East experience, which Yankee fans always love to hear that, because the AL East is insane and competitive. And he seems like the kind of guy who would thrive at Yankee Stadium. And I think it would be a really good marriage, as you said, with the bullpen and him. And he's been mostly healthy, which for the Yankees, considering what their rotation looked like in 2023, that's always a good thing. So yeah, the pros are really pro for Blake Snell.
Yes, extremely pro. You mentioned, Stace, the ground ball stuff, which is massive, right? The Yankees obviously have to lean into ground ball pitchers. And when you also mentioned that they have a great defense, of course they got a great defense, and they got guys that are begging to play defense, especially coming up the middle and at third base, right? Like, that you're going to have a solid defense behind a guy like Blake Snell, which is part of the reason why he was so good at stranding runners last season, because look at how good San Diego's defense is too, right? They had incredible defense. So, and when you mentioned that his slider will also, it can kind of lean in the fly ball camp, you also got to realize the usage of that slider. It is his least used pitch.
Yep.
So just because that one pitch lends to fly balls a little bit more doesn't mean that, now he's a fly ball pitcher. This other stuff is what he uses more, and that's what's going to generate more ground balls. And of course, the Yankees would know that. They would know what to use. They could always change the shape of the slider to induce more ground balls than fly balls. Like, there are things you can do to quote unquote right that wrong, which really isn't a wrong.
Right.
It's just a tendency, I guess, is probably more the way you would lean on that. So like you said, Stace, the pros are pro. I mean, there's a reason why this guy is walking away with a Cy Young this year. And there's a reason why he's slated to get 7 years in a contract here and be either an ace or a 2 on a club. And that's probably where he would slot in as the 2 in New York. Him and Rodon, like, kind of battling it out. And right now, Snell's 23 beats Rodon's 23. Just going to throw that out there.
Yes.
By not an insignificant amount. Those are the pros. But of course, no player is perfect, no pitcher is perfect. There are cons, and we kind of touched on it, and we're going to touch on the walks and why that's so significant in just a second. Of course, if you're here for the first time, you can reply to that pinned comment here on the YouTube side and drop a question for us for Fan Mail Friday. Make sure to do that here on the YouTube side. If you want Fan Mail Friday priority and the ability to text Stacey and text me one-on-one, you can do so by joining the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. Check out the episode description for a 14-day free trial. You get other perks as well as the Fan Mail Friday priority. All right. Again, nobody's perfect. What's wrong with Blake Snell? That's next.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options like spreads and player props, over and under, and more. This weekend, the Giants will be playing the Washington Commanders at home, if you call what they do lately playing. And the Jets will be up in Buffalo to take on the Bills. So both teams in division, rivals. Could be fun, could be terrible. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Back now on Locked On Yankees. Hey, everydayers out there, if you're watching this when this comes out or listening to this when it comes out, don't forget Gerrit Cole's about to win the Cy Young here on Wednesday night. So Thursday's show is going to be all Gerrit Cole. Everything we want to hear from you. Comment here on the YouTube side. We'll be talking about Gerrit Cole on Thursday's show. So make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss that. Stace, like I said before, nobody's perfect unless your name is Steve Granado. And unfortunately for Blake Snell, his name is not Steve Granado, so he is not perfect. And I think I think the obvious thing here, especially considering the 7-year 200 projected, the problem that sticks out to me here, and even though it's part of the plan right now, is the walk rate. And the reason why this sticks out the most for me is because the Yankees walked too many hitters in 2023. So to add a guy that walked almost 100 batters last season is not exactly the number you're looking for. Like that is, it's bizarre. I'll tell you how bizarre in a second, but it is bizarre how many batters he walked last season, and for that to be legitimately part of the game plan.
Yeah, you don't see that often. Usually
I don't know if I've ever seen that, Stace. I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever seen someone flat out come out and say, yeah, I'm going to walk guys, and that's fine.
Because you have to have confidence in your ability to get guys out, which I love from him. Because, if you see other guys walk too many guys, it's like, oh, God, what's going to happen here? Because you don't see, some guys will get out of jams, but you also see guys that can't get out of jams after they walk people. Because a lot of times a walk will start some sort of rally for the other team. And yeah, I can understand why that would be not a great thing to see.
So here's the weirdest part of it, Stace. This past season, Blake Snell led Major League Baseball in ERA, 2.25. Wow, great. He also led Major League Baseball in walks. He is, and this is staggering, Stace, the first pitcher in American League and National League history to do that since 1913, when essentially they invented the earn run.
Right.
So 110 years of baseball, no one did that. That's where you can go and say, okay, that worked in 2023. Is that going to work in 2027? In 2028? Is that still going to work? Can you still get out of jams like that?
Right.
That is not hyperbole. I think that's a legitimate question to have to ask when you're considering him.
Yeah, I could see that. Also, I was looking at the notes and saw 1913 and almost said 100 years and forgot it was 2023. So yeah, that's where my brain is. But that is really unbelievable. I didn't even realize that about him. I knew about the 2.25 ERA, but I didn't realize his walks were so high. And just for him to like, that's just, yeah, that just shows you how good a pitcher he is and how good he is at getting out of jams, because other guys walk 99 players and their ERA is going to be up in like the 5s and the 6s because they're going to be letting people score. And he obviously does not.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, right, when you pair a guy like Snell into the Yankees and you mix in the strength of the bullpen, and just as for everydayers out there, next week we're going to be talking about Josh Hader, and if you're thinking adding those two guys specifically to the Yankees, obviously they were teammates in San Diego, but specifically to the Yankees, and you pair it with guys like Clay Holmes and adding back Jonathan Loaizaga, and having other pieces in your pen already, that's a great game right there. And that's a lot of strength. And, we might talk about this later, but the Yankees are also open to signing Wandy Peralta back, who was obviously one of the better pitchers this season out of the bullpen, and one of the Yankees' best weapons out of the bullpen. So when you're throwing all this into the mix, you're looking at like historically elite, like not just elite here. I think that's where, this differs from when we're talking about Yoshinobu Yamamoto and you're talking about, anybody that's below this threshold, is the possibility of this being the scariest rotation by far. If you just hit even slightly on Rodon and get whatever out of Nestor, this rotation, if healthy, is the period, end of sentence, scariest potential rotation in baseball. It's not even remotely close. So obviously adding him on the good side of things makes a whole bunch of sense. But how long can you go in baseball leading the league in walks without that coming back to bite you, Stace? Like, I don't know if I'm overblowing that, but I'm always thinking down the line, how bad does that contract look towards the end of it after you're halfway done with it? Like, if this becomes a problem, this is not a problem that just gets fixed, because it is part of who he is. That's the difference. So like, oh, well, we'll work on that. We'll work on you getting around the zone. Maybe we can do a little tweak to your rotate. No. That's part of him. And you got to know that heading in.
Yeah. Although it would be fun if he finished his career where, he's still walking a lot of people, but his ERA is still low, and he finishes like, some sort of record that no one else is going to get because he finishes with such a low ERA and a high walk rate.
Yeah. I just, Stacey, I know you didn't play ball, right? But there's an old adage. There you go. There's an old adage in baseball is that walks come back to haunt. And at some point, dude, I like Blake Snell, but at some point, those walks have to come back to haunt. I just don't think you can keep that up for 7 years. That is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
On the injury side of things, Stace, you had mentioned that he obviously has been pretty healthy throughout his career, which is great. Things to consider here: he has never had Tommy John surgery. Just throwing that out there, but he has had some work done on his elbow back in 2019. He needed arthroscopic surgery. He had some loose bodies in his elbow, so they had to remove that. He missed a couple of months in 2019. That was kind of a weird season for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is just one slight downside, that he has had to have some work done on that elbow. By all accounts, it's cleared up and no issues. He's not necessarily going super, super deep consistently into games. We all know the famous / infamous "you pulled him too early" Kevin Cash situation. But he's not a guy that's pushing 8 innings. That is just not how Blake Snell rolls. If you're looking for a workhorse Gerrit Cole type, I don't think Blake Snell fits that mold either.
Right. And that isn't really that much of a problem, because if he's pitching 6 really good innings, I don't think people are going to complain about it, and I think maybe that's why he's been so healthy, because they're not stretching him out too much. And maybe that'll help him down the line, because There are some guys like I don't know how Justin Verlander's still pitching. I mean, that dude had so many innings on his arm even before he went to Houston, and his career looked like it was like on the downswing. And then he does what he does. And yes, he's had Tommy John recently, but he's like into his 40s now, right? He's getting into his 40s now, and he's still pitching. So if Blake Snell can stay healthy and I don't mind the 7 years. I don't. It doesn't scare me really. I don't know why, but it doesn't.
We'll see if that comes into play when we get to our final decisions. We also have a couple other things to consider: where he would slot into the rotation, what the Yankees have currently, and what is down the pipeline, as well as some other stuff we can talk about. That's coming up next. Back now on Locked On Yankees. Stacey, before we come to our final verdicts, we wanted to give some other things to consider. Wanted to talk about this rotation currently, right? Without Blake Snell potentially in it, you're looking at Cole, Rodon, Nestor, Schmidt, King as your 1 through 5. And obviously we've talked about this with Yamamoto in the past, but adding a left-hander into this rotation would give you 3 legitimate starter lefties, quote unquote legitimate. I mean, like everyday lefties, every 5 days lefties. So having 3 fifths of your rotation potentially being a left-handed pitcher, that's pretty, I like that. I like the sound of that.
I do too. Because not only do the Yankees need a left-handed batter, but I feel like they need more lefty arms, bullpen and starting rotation, because I always like lefties, crafty lefties. You know, Andy Pettit's a crafty lefty. I miss having guys like that in the rotation, and Snell would be that dude.
Oh, yeah. Especially considering that at this very moment, as of this recording, the Yankees don't have a lefty up in the majors right now out of the bullpen, right? We know that because
Yeah.
Wandy was the only lefty this season. Yes, Matt Crook is on the 40-man, but there's no guarantee that he's on the roster next season. So, yes, you always want a lefty. You always want a lefty. That's why the joke is teach your sons how to throw left-handed. Behind the rotation, of course, your depth behind the guys that are currently there now with no signings, which feels like they'll make some sort of signing this offseason. Johnny Brito, Randy Vasquez, Will Warren, Clayton Beater, Drew Thorpe, maybe even a little bit further behind that. They have some guys. They have some youth there at the higher ends of AAA. So that's nice. You don't want to have to rely on them, but in need, an injury need, you have guys there that 2 of those that I just mentioned have, not an insignificant amount of major league time at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it was big for both Brito and Vasquez to have that experience. And, they showed in some ways that they can contribute and help the team out when they need them.
Yes. Other thing I wanted to throw out there, Stace, anytime we're talking pitching, you got to bring up Cole's opt-out. Doesn't seem super likely, but it's always a possibility. He can opt out after the 2024 season. The Yankees can nullify that opt-out if they add a 10th year to the contract, which would be so strange, but it is possible. So just always consider that. Blake Snell could easily be your ace right now if Cole opts out after 2024. That adds a layer of brevity, adds a layer of security as well.
I feel like Cole wouldn't if they get Snell, because I feel like even if the Yankees don't do as well in 2024, but they're closer than they were in 2023, that Cole will be like, okay, we're almost there. Maybe I should stay here.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I think that's totally fair. It shows that the front office is like, we got you. We're behind you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We believe in you.
Yeah.
This obviously also states, if that ends up being the case and Cole sticks around, would be the 3rd massive contract in the rotation. That is not insignificant. We say it all the time here. We don't care about money. It's not our money. It doesn't matter. But, there is a limit, I guess, at some point. You can't send $30 trillion, which you're not close to, but, there is a limit at some point. And it does affect how front office operates at some point. Even when considering the Yankees, that's just the reality of it. It shouldn't, but it does. So having 3 big contracts in one rotation, it's something to note, at least.
Yeah, the Yankees would be the 2023 Mets with all those huge contracts in the rotation, and hopefully they wouldn't have to trade everyone at the trade deadline.
That's true. And then one last thing I wanted to bring up, Stacey, if you do end up signing him, just the thought that I had, that does kind of allow you to potentially swing one of your high-end AAA arms to get something else. You could trade Warren you could trade Brito plus Beater or something along those lines. That opens up a little bit more possibility. I don't think they should do that, just throwing that out there.
Right.
But it does open up at least a little bit of a window of a possibility to move some pieces to fill needs elsewhere.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what's going to happen, if anything.
Well, that's where we've come, Stace. It's time. It's decision time. We have laid out the pros. We have laid out the cons. We have laid out everything that you need to consider. So, Stacey, if you're the Yankees front office, are you trying to sign Blake Snell right now?
Yes. I want them to get Blake Snell. I want him to get in on the lefty text message group with CC and Pettit and Jordan Montgomery, who's still in there. And I want him to talk to the two guys who were like their biggest lefties in the last, 25, almost 30 years. I don't mind the 7 years. I don't mind that they have to give him money. I like how crafty he is. Like I said, I feel like his stuff can become like a Pettit when he gets older. I mean, Pettit pitched until he was 41, and he did pretty well that last season. So yeah, that's what I'm picturing in my mind. I'm picturing like a second coming of Andy Pettit in a way. So yes.
Well,
I'm a yes.
let me ask you two on top of that, since this is a front of mine. If it came down to Snell or Yamamoto, which way would you lean?
Ooh.
Because both lefties, obviously Yamamoto is much younger, but also unproven because he hasn't pitched in the majors.
Yeah. I think I would lean towards Snell just because of the experience and the AL East experience, the MLB experience. I think I would lean. It wouldn't be a big lean, it feels like it would be like Snell. It wouldn't be this way. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'm moving my hands all the way over to the side like a scale, like a dial or a scale. But yeah, it would be like a 60-40 kind of a thing, not like a 90-10 kind of a thing. Yeah.
My thoughts here, my decision. I think I need to preface it. Blake Snell would very clearly make the Yankees better. I don't think anybody's arguing that. I think if you're arguing against that, then you don't know ball. You just don't know what you're talking about. Very clearly, Blake Snell is going to make you better, right? This is not a Carlos Rodon situation. This isn't like, the bad years, quote unquote, of Blake Snell aren't that bad. Like, yes, he's only had one All-Star nod, which feels weird, and he's going to walk away with his second Cy Young here in a few hours as of this episode's release. But he would very clearly make you a better team. I don't know if I lean more in the quantity over quality camp here, just because of given how rough it was in 2023. Because yes, Blake Snell's been healthy, but if he gets hurt, you're kind of back to square one here.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help out. Like if I'm going this or that, like sign 2 major league average starting pitchers for 2 years versus Blake Snell, like maybe I kind of lean in that camp in a weird way just because of the depth issues they had last year. And there's no guarantee that the guys that we listed in the back end in AAA that are going to perform at least a consistent level at the major league side. You don't know that. Like you can't count on Brito. You can't count on Vasquez. You can't count on Warren. Can't count on Beater. You can't count on Thorpe. You don't know. You're not going to count on Mitch Spence. Like you just can't do that if you're looking to win next year. If you're not looking to win it all in 2024, Blake Snell, probably smart if you're looking 2 years, 3 years down the line. Probably smart given the longevity and given that he's still going to be in his early 30s in the Gerrit Cole range at that point.
Right.
I don't know. Again, I think it's obvious. Very clearly he's going to make you better. But if it's going to hamstring the organization to where you're just going to do this and that's the shiny toy, then don't do it. Right? You can't just do Snell and then don't get the lefty bat. Don't help out the outfield. Don't do any of that stuff. Don't make trades. Don't do it. If it's just going to be, all right, 23 off seasons, like 24 off season where we just sign Rodon and say, screw it. Don't do that with Snell. That's not smart.
Oh no, I don't just want Snell.
It can't be the only thing. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at. I lean, if you're doing the scale thing, again, clearly he's going to make you better. The biggest part for me still is I'm a little hung up on the walks thing down the line. But if you're trying to win within the next 4 years, which I feel like the Yankees obviously are always trying to do, then do it. Let us know how you're feeling about this. Do you care about the walks as much as I do in the comments section? It's something very interesting that I'm just going to be watching out for the rest of his career, wherever he's pitching. I'm just very curious how that all shakes out moving forward. But let us know how you're feeling in the episode or below the episode description, below the like button in the comment section. Stacey, what's coming up this week on Locked On Yankees?
We're going to have a celebration for Gerrit Cole winning the Cy Young on Thursday, and it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. Can't wait. Let us know how you're feeling as well in the comment section about Gerrit Cole when he does win on Wednesday night. Thursday's show is all about that. And that's going to do it for today's Locked On Yankees. I'm Steve Granado.
And I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. We'll see you tomorrow.